The elevator doors slid open on the 47th floor of the Meridian Tower in downtown Chicago. Marcus Whitfield, CEO of Technova Solutions, stepped out adjusting his $3,000 Italian suit, completely unaware that the young woman mopping the marble floors behind him was about to expose the biggest lie his company had ever told. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Zara Mitchell had been working the night cleaning shift at Technova Solutions for exactly 3 months and 2 days. Not that anyone bothered to learn her name. To the executives who occasionally worked late, she was invisible. Just another face in the army of custodial staff who kept their pristine offices spotless while they slept soundly in their suburban mansions. At 24, Zara possessed something most people in that gleaming tower could never imagine: a computer science degree from Northwestern University, summa cum laude, with a specialty in artificial intelligence and machine learning. But student loans don't care about your GPA, and neither do landlords when the rent is due. So every night from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., she pushed her cart through the halls of one of Chicago's most successful tech companies, emptying trash bins and wiping down conference tables where million-dollar deals were struck. The irony wasn't lost on her. During the day, she coded freelance projects from her cramped studio apartment in Pilsen, building apps and websites for small businesses who paid her a fraction of what she was worth. At night, she cleaned the offices of people who probably couldn't write a single line of functional code if their lives depended on it. Technova Solutions had made headlines 3 months earlier when they launched their revolutionary app called Streamline AI, a productivity platform that promised to revolutionize how businesses manage their workflows using advanced artificial intelligence. The app had gained 2 million users in its first month, with projections showing it could be worth over $2 billion within the year. Marcus Whitfield had been featured on the cover of Tech Entrepreneur magazine, hailed as a visionary who was redefining the future of workplace efficiency. Zara had downloaded the app out of curiosity during her lunch break one Tuesday. What she discovered made her stomach turn. The AI algorithms were amateur level at best, clunky, inefficient, and riddled with security vulnerabilities that any first-year computer science student could spot. The user interface was inconsistent, the data processing was painfully slow, and the so-called revolutionary features were just poorly implemented versions of existing technologies. But what bothered her most wasn't the mediocre coding. It was the way Marcus Whitfield spoke about the app in interviews, taking credit for innovations he clearly didn't understand, using technical jargon incorrectly, and making promises about capabilities that the current codebase couldn't possibly deliver. Every night as she cleaned his corner office, Zara would glance at the awards lining his walls, the framed magazine covers, the photos of him shaking hands with tech industry leaders. She wondered how someone who had built their empire on such shaky technical foundations could sleep so peacefully. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in late October. Zara was restocking the paper towels in the executive bathroom when she overheard Marcus on a conference call with potential investors. The bathroom shared a thin wall with his office, and his voice carried clearly through the ventilation system. "The AI integration is absolutely cutting edge," he was saying, his voice full of confident authority. "Our proprietary algorithms can process complex data patterns in ways that no other platform can match. We're talking about technology that's at least 5 years ahead of our competitors." Zara paused, her hands gripping the paper towel dispenser. She knew every line of that app's code by now. She'd reverse-engineered it during her sleepless nights, partly out of professional curiosity and partly out of sheer frustration. The algorithms he was describing didn't exist. The proprietary technology was mostly open-source libraries stitched together with duct tape and hope. "We're projecting another round of funding at a $3 billion valuation," Marcus continued. "With this level of innovation, we'll have the entire productivity software market cornered within 18 months. $3 billion. Built on lies and mediocre programming that wouldn't pass a college capstone project review." That night, Zara made a decision that would change everything. Instead of going straight home after her shift, she sat in the 24-hour diner across the street from Meridian Tower, ordered black coffee, and opened her laptop. If Marcus Whitfield wanted to claim his company had revolutionary AI technology, she would show him what revolutionary actually looked like. She spent the next week coding during every spare moment she had. Between classes she was auditing online, freelance deadlines, and her cleaning shifts, she built something extraordinary. Not a minor improvement to streamline AI, a complete reimagining of what a productivity platform could be. Her version incorporated genuine machine learning algorithms that could adapt to individual user behaviors, predictive analytics that actually worked, and a neural network architecture that could process complex workflows in real time. The user interface was intuitive and beautiful, the security protocols were military-grade, and the whole system could scale to handle millions of users without breaking a sweat. Most importantly, she built it to be genuinely helpful, not just profitable. The following Friday night, Zara was cleaning the conference room on the 45th floor when she heard the elevator ding. It was unusual for anyone to be in the building this late, but she didn't think much of it until she heard Marcus Whitfield's voice echoing down the hallway. He was giving someone a tour, probably another potential investor, judging by the reverent tone he was using to describe the company's innovative culture and commitment to technological excellence. Zara continued working, hoping to stay invisible as usual, but as the voices grew closer, she realized they were heading directly toward the conference room where she was polishing the massive oak table. The door swung open, and Marcus walked in mid-sentence, gesturing expansively at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. "This is where we hold our strategic planning sessions," he was saying to a distinguished older woman in an expensive coat. Every breakthrough that's made streamline AI, the success it is today, was conceived in this very room. He stopped short when he noticed Zara, his expression flickering with mild annoyance. For a moment, the three of them stood in awkward silence. Marcus in his perfectly tailored suit, the investor with her keen eyes taking in every detail, and Zara in her cleaning uniform, spray bottle still in hand. "Don't mind her," Marcus said dismissively, not even looking in Zara's direction. "She's just a cleaner, probably doesn't even know what a computer is." The investor's eyebrows raised slightly, but she said nothing. Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her expression neutral and continued wiping down the table. She'd heard worse from these people over the past 3 months. "As I was saying," Marcus continued, "our development team consists of some of the most brilliant minds in artificial intelligence. The complexity of what we've built with Streamline AI is truly unprecedented in the industry." That's when Zara looked up from her cleaning and spoke for the first time in Marcus Whitfield's presence. "Actually," she said quietly, "your AI algorithms are fundamentally flawed." The room went completely silent. Marcus's face went through several shades of red before settling on a dangerous crimson. The investor, Dr. Helena Rodriguez from Pinnacle Ventures, turned her full attention to Zara for the first time, her sharp eyes assessing this unexpected interruption. "Excuse me," Marcus's voice was ice cold. "I don't recall asking for your opinion on matters you couldn't possibly understand." Zara set down her spray bottle and faced him directly. "Your machine learning model uses outdated regression algorithms that create massive computational overhead. The neural network architecture you're claiming is proprietary is actually a standard TensorFlow implementation with basic modifications. And your data processing pipeline has at least 12 critical security vulnerabilities that could expose user information to anyone with intermediate hacking skills." The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Dr. Rodriguez's expression had shifted from polite interest to sharp focus. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. "Security vulnerabilities?" Dr. Rodriguez asked, her voice cutting through the tension. "That's a serious accusation." Marcus quickly regained his composure, letting out a dismissive laugh. "Helena, I apologize for this interruption. Obviously, our cleaning staff sometimes overhear technical conversations and misunderstand what they're hearing. The delusions of grandeur are almost amusing." But Dr. Rodriguez wasn't looking at Marcus anymore. She was studying Zara with the intensity of someone who'd built her fortune by recognizing talent others overlooked. "What specific vulnerabilities are you referring to?" she asked Zara directly. Zara hesitated for just a moment. This wasn't how she'd planned to reveal what she knew. But something in Dr. Rodriguez's tone told her this might be her only chance to speak truth to power. The user authentication system relies on client-side validation, which means anyone can bypass login credentials by manipulating browser cookies. The API endpoints don't use proper rate limiting, making them vulnerable to DDoS attacks. And the database queries aren't parameterized, leaving the entire system open to SQL injection attacks. Dr. Rodriguez pulled out her phone and began typing notes. Marcus's confident demeanor was cracking. Helena, surely you're not taking seriously the ramblings of someone who clearly knows more about your product's architecture than you do, Dr. Rodriguez interrupted. Young lady, what's your background? Computer science degree from Northwestern, with specialization in AI and machine learning, Zara replied. I've been analyzing Streamline AI's codebase for the past month. Marcus laughed again, but it sounded forced now. Analyzing? How exactly would a cleaning lady get access to proprietary source code? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Zara pulled her phone from her pocket and opened an app. I didn't need access to your source code. I reverse engineered it from the client-side implementation. Your obfuscation methods are elementary. She showed Dr. Rodriguez her screen, where lines of code scrolled past in organized, commented blocks. This is a complete reconstruction of your backend logic, based on API response patterns and JavaScript analysis. Would you like me to demonstrate the security vulnerabilities in real time? Dr. Rodriguez leaned in to examine the phone screen. Her eyebrows rose as she recognized the sophisticated nature of what she was seeing. This is impressive work. You did this on your own? It took about 4 days, Zara said simply. The hardest part was understanding why certain design choices were made, until I realized they weren't choices at all, just mistakes that got built upon. Marcus was now visibly sweating despite the air-conditioned office. Helena, I think we should continue our tour. This is clearly some kind of elaborate prank, or... Mr. Whitfield, Dr. Rodriguez said coolly. I've been evaluating tech companies for 15 years. I know the difference between genuine technical expertise and performance art. She turned back to Zara. You mentioned you've been working on this for a month. Have you developed any solutions? Zara glanced at Marcus, who was glaring at her with undisguised hostility, then back at Dr. Rodriguez. I've built a complete alternative. Same functionality, but with proper AI implementation, real-time adaptive learning, and enterprise-grade security. Show me. Right now? Right now! Zara looked around the conference room, noting the massive smart display mounted on the wall. Could I use that screen? Dr. Rodriguez nodded to Marcus, who reluctantly activated the display system. His hands were shaking slightly as he handed Zara the wireless presenter remote. Zara connected her phone to the display and opened her development environment. What appeared on the screen made Dr. Rodriguez take an audible breath. The interface was sleek and intuitive, with smooth animations and a clean design that made Streamline AI look clunky by comparison. But more importantly, the underlying architecture visible in the code panels showed a level of sophistication that even Dr. Rodriguez, with her computer engineering background, could appreciate. This is the core AI engine, Zara explained, highlighting sections of code. Instead of using static algorithms, it employs dynamic neural networks that learn from user behavior patterns. Watch. She demonstrated how the system adapted in real time to different workflow styles, automatically optimizing task sequences and predicting user needs with uncanny accuracy. The processing speed was remarkable. Operations that took Streamline AI several seconds completed almost instantaneously. The security architecture uses multi-layer encryption with blockchain verification for sensitive data, she continued, switching to another view. And the scalability is built on distributed microservices that can handle exponential user growth without performance degradation. Dr. Rodriguez was taking notes furiously on her phone. What about integration capabilities? Seamless API connectivity with over 200 existing business platforms, Zara replied, pulling up another demonstration. The system can analyze productivity patterns across multiple software environments and suggest optimizations that actually work. Marcus had gone completely silent, watching his company's supposed technological advantage being dismantled and rebuilt in real time by someone he dismissed as just a cleaner 5 minutes earlier. How long did this take you to build? Dr. Rodriguez asked. About 6 weeks of evening work, Zara said. Most of that was spent on the AI training models and security testing. 6 weeks. Dr. Rodriguez looked at Marcus, whose company had supposedly spent 2 years and millions of dollars developing inferior technology. And you did this while working here? Night shifts gave me time to think about the problems differently, Zara explained. Sometimes the best innovations come from outside the bubble. Dr. Rodriguez closed her notebook and looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Whitfield, I think we need to reschedule our discussion. I have some due diligence to conduct. Marcus's face had gone pale. Helena, surely you're not going to let this stunt affect a serious business negotiation. What I'm seeing here isn't a stunt, Dr. Rodriguez replied. It's a demonstration that your company's core technology is obsolete before it even reached market saturation. She turned to Zara. Do you have a few minutes to discuss this further, perhaps somewhere more private? Zara glanced at the clock on the wall. It was nearly midnight, and she still had 3 floors of offices to clean before her shift ended. But looking at Rodriguez's expectant face, she realized this conversation might be worth more than any amount of overtime pay. I suppose I could take a break, she said. As they walked toward the elevator, Marcus called after them desperately. Helena, please don't make any hasty decisions based on some elaborate demonstration. We can discuss upgrading our security protocols. Dr. Rodriguez didn't even turn around. Mr. Whitfield, I'll be in touch. The elevator doors closed, leaving Marcus alone in the conference room, staring at the blank display screen where his company's future had just been rewritten by someone he'd never bothered to see as human. The elevator descended in contemplative silence until Dr. Rodriguez finally spoke. There's a coffee shop across the street that stays open all night. Are you willing to have a conversation that might change your life? Zara looked down at her cleaning uniform, then at Dr. Rodriguez's expensive coat. I'm not exactly dressed for a business meeting. The most important business meetings I've ever had happened in parking lots, hospital waiting rooms, and once in a laundromat in Detroit. Clothes don't make the entrepreneur. Vision does. 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other in Murphy's all-night diner, the same place where Zara had first decided to rebuild Streamline AI. The irony wasn't lost on her as she stirred sugar into her coffee and tried to process what had just happened. Dr. Rodriguez had ordered nothing but black coffee, and her intense focus hadn't wavered since they'd left the building. Tell me about your background. Not just the degree, the real story. Zara traced the rim of her coffee cup with her finger. I grew up in Inglewood. My mom worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat after my dad died when I was 12. She cleaned office buildings during the day and stocked shelves at a grocery store at night. I used to do homework in the break rooms while she worked. How did you get interested in computers? The public library had an old computer lab. I'd go there after school because it was safer than being on the streets. Started with basic programming tutorials on YouTube, then moved to more advanced stuff. By high school, I was building websites for local businesses for $20 each. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. Full scholarship to Northwestern? Academic and need-based. Even then, I had to work in the campus computer lab to cover living expenses. My roommates thought I was crazy for spending weekends coding instead of partying, but I knew this was my only shot at something better. So what went wrong after graduation? Zara's laugh was bitter. Nothing went wrong. Everything went exactly as expected for someone like me. I applied to every tech company in Chicago. Most never responded. The ones that did either offered unpaid internships or entry-level positions that paid less than minimum wage when you calculated the actual hours. Meanwhile, I had student loans, rent, and my mom's medical bills to worry about. Medical bills? Diabetes complications. She lost her day job when she had to start dialysis 3 times a week. The cleaning job was all she could manage, and even that was getting harder. Dr. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, processing this information. So you took the night cleaning job to support both of you while trying to freelance on the side. Exactly. It seemed temporary, just until I could build up enough of a client base to go full-time freelance. But freelance work is unpredictable, and when you're competing against developers in countries where $20 goes a lot further, it's hard to charge what your skills are actually worth. But you kept learning, kept improving. I couldn't stop. Every night at Technova, I'd see these executives who clearly didn't understand the technology they were selling, making more in bonuses than I'd make in 5 years. It was infuriating, but also motivating. I knew I could build better systems than what they had. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. That brings us to tonight. What you showed me up there. That wasn't just impressive coding. That was enterprise-level architecture that could compete with anything I've seen from teams of dozens of developers. How is that possible? Zara considered her answer carefully. When you grow up with nothing, you learn to see possibilities that other people miss. Those executives at Teknova, they think in terms of what exists already. They take something that works and try to make it slightly better or slightly cheaper. But when you're starting from zero, you can build something completely different. Walk me through your thought process with the Streamline AI Rebuild. The original app tried to force users to adapt to the system instead of making the system adapt to users. It was built by people who'd never actually had to use productivity software in a real work environment. They just knew what investors wanted to hear about AI and machine learning. Zara pulled out her phone and opened her development notes. I started by thinking about how my mom actually worked. She had routines that made sense for her situation, but every productivity app assumed she worked like a Silicon Valley programmer. So I built something that could learn from anyone's workflow, regardless of their job or background. The AI components? Real machine learning, not just programmed responses with fancy names. The system observes user behavior patterns and builds predictive models that actually improve performance instead of just looking impressive in demos. Dr. Rodriguez studied the notes on Zara's phone. The security architecture you mentioned. Where did you learn that? Necessity. When you're freelancing for small businesses, you become responsible for protecting their data with no budget for enterprise security solutions. You learn to build bulletproof systems because you can't afford the lawsuits if something goes wrong. And the scalability? I designed it from the ground up to handle growth. Most apps are built assuming they'll stay small, then they try to retrofit scalability later when they need it. That's why so many successful apps become slow and clunky as they grow. I planned for millions of users from day one. Dr. Rodriguez closed her notebook and looked directly at Zara. I've been investing in technology companies for 15 years. I've seen brilliant engineers, visionary CEOs, and revolutionary products. What you've built represents all three of those things in one person. Zara felt her heart rate increase. What are you saying? I'm saying that Marcus Whitfield just lost a $100 million investment, and you might have just gained one. The words hung in the air between them. Zara had dreamed of moments like this, but now that it was happening, she felt overwhelmed rather than excited. I don't understand. You came to invest in Teknova. I came to invest in technology that could revolutionize productivity software. 10 minutes ago, I thought the technology belonged to Teknova. Now I know it belongs to you. But I'm nobody. I don't have a company. I don't have a team. I don't even have... You have the most important thing, Dr. Rodriguez interrupted. You have something that actually works, built by someone who understands both the technology and the real-world problems it's supposed to solve. Everything else can be figured out. Zara stared into her coffee cup. My mom always said I was too ambitious for my own good. She worried I'd set myself up for disappointment by dreaming too big. What would she say if she knew what happened tonight? She'd probably ask if this mysterious investor could help me get health insurance. Dr. Rodriguez laughed, the first genuine emotion she'd shown all evening. Smart woman. And yes, comprehensive health insurance would definitely be part of any partnership discussion. Partnership? Zara, what I'm proposing isn't charity or even traditional venture capital. I want to help you build a company around your technology. Real funding, real resources, real market penetration. But more than that, I want to help you prove that innovation doesn't require an Ivy League MBA and family connections. The weight of the moment settled over them. Across the street, the lights were still on in Marcus Whitfield's office. Zara could imagine him frantically making phone calls, trying to salvage his deal, probably never suspecting that his company's death sentence was being written in a diner by the woman he'd dismissed as just a cleaner. There's something else, Dr. Rodriguez continued. What you've built isn't just better than Streamline AI, it's better than anything currently on the market. We're not talking about competing with Marcus Whitfield. We're talking about making his entire business model obsolete. Zara looked up from her coffee. What would that look like? It would look like justice. And it would look like the most satisfying business launch I've ever been part of. 3 weeks later, Zara walked into the sleek offices of Rodriguez Ventures, wearing her first business suit and carrying a leather portfolio that still felt foreign in her hands. The transformation from night janitor to tech entrepreneur had been dizzying, but nothing had prepared her for what Dr. Rodriguez had planned for this morning. The legal team finished the patent applications yesterday, Dr. Rodriguez said as they settled into her glass-walled conference room overlooking Lake Michigan. Your AI architecture is now protected under 17 different intellectual property filings. Marcus Whitfield can't touch any of it. Quote. Zara nodded, still adjusting to the reality that she now owned technology worth potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. What about the funding? $12 million in Series A funding, with another $20 million committed for Series B once we hit our user targets. I've also secured partnerships with 3 major enterprise clients who are eager to pilot your system. The numbers felt surreal. A month ago, Zara had been worried about making rent. Now she was discussing investments that could change her family's life forever. There's something else, Dr. Rodriguez continued, sliding a tablet across the table. I thought you should see this before our press conference this afternoon. The screen showed a news article from TechCrunch with a headline that made Zara's breath catch. Technova Solutions stock plummets 60% following security audit revelations. She scrolled through the article, reading about independent security researchers who had discovered the exact vulnerabilities she'd identified that night in the conference room. The investigation had been triggered by, quote, anonymous tips from industry sources and had uncovered systematic problems throughout Streamline AI's architecture. Anonymous tips? Zara looked up at Dr. Rodriguez. Sometimes information finds its way to the right people through unexpected channels, Dr. Rodriguez replied with a slight smile. The important thing is that the market now understands what we've known for weeks. Technova's technology is fundamentally flawed. The article went on to detail Marcus Whitfield's increasingly desperate attempts to retain investors, including promises of major updates that his development team was apparently incapable of delivering. 3 major clients had already canceled their contracts, and 2 board members had resigned. He's finished, Zara said quietly. He finished himself the moment he chose arrogance over integrity. You just provided the catalyst. A knock on the conference room door interrupted them. Dr. Rodriguez's assistant entered with a concerned expression. Helena, there's Marcus Whitfield here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's quite insistent. He says it's about the Mitchell situation. Dr. Rodriguez and Zara exchanged glances. Send him in, Dr. Rodriguez said. This should be interesting. Marcus Whitfield looked nothing like the confident CEO who had dismissed Zara 3 weeks earlier. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his suit was wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. Helena, thank God you're willing to see me, he said, rushing into the room without noticing Zara sitting at the far end of the conference table. This whole situation has gotten completely out of hand. We need to discuss damage control. Hello, Marcus, Dr. Rodriguez said calmly. I don't believe you've been formally introduced to my new business partner. Marcus turned and froze when he saw Zara. The color drained from his face as the implications hit him. You, he whispered, this is impossible. Mr. Whitfield, Zara said politely, standing and extending her hand. It's nice to see you again. Under better circumstances this time, I hope. Marcus ignored her outstretched hand, spinning back to face Dr. Rodriguez. Helena, surely you can't be serious about partnering with her. She's a janitor, for Christ's sake. Actually, she's the founder and CTO of what will soon be your company's primary competitor, Dr. Rodriguez replied. And based on the market response to your recent security issues, I'd say she's winning. Marcus's desperation was palpable. Look, I know there were some technical issues with our initial release, but those can be fixed. We have a team of developers working around the clock to implement security patches and performance improvements. How's that going? Zara asked, genuinely curious. Marcus glared at her. It's going fine. We don't need input from someone who actually understands how to write secure code? Zara interrupted. Because from what I've seen in the tech blogs, your around-the-clock development team has managed to introduce 3 new vulnerabilities while failing to fix any of the original ones. We're making progress. Marcus, Dr. Rodriguez said, let me save you some time. 3 weeks ago, you had a company worth $2 billion, built on mediocre technology and good marketing. Today you have a company worth maybe $50 million, built on exposed mediocrity and terrible publicity. The only question now is whether you cut your losses or continue digging. Marcus slumped into a chair without being invited. Helena, we've known each other for years. You invested in my first startup. Surely that relationship means something. Quote, it means I'm disappointed that someone I once respected chose to build a house of cards instead of something solid. But this is insane! Marcus exploded. You're going to destroy a successful company and hundreds of jobs because of some personal vendetta? Zara leaned forward. Mr. Whitfield, this isn't personal. It's business. You built a product that doesn't work and sold it based on capabilities that don't exist. The market is simply correcting itself. A product that doesn't work, we have 2 million users. You have 2 million users who are frustrated with constant crashes, security breaches, and promised features that never materialize, Zara replied. Check your App Store reviews lately? Marcus pulled out his phone and scrolled through the Streamline AI reviews. His face grew paler with each swipe. The rating had dropped from 4.2 stars to 2.1 stars in the past 3 weeks, with recent reviews filled with complaints about the exact issues Zara had identified. This is sabotage, he said desperately. She must have orchestrated this somehow. Marcus, Dr. Rodriguez said firmly, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. The problems with your app are real, documented, and entirely of your own making. Zara didn't create those security vulnerabilities. Your team did. She didn't write the inefficient algorithms. Your developers did. She didn't oversell capabilities that don't exist. You did. The room fell silent except for the sound of Marcus's heavy breathing. Finally, he looked up at Zara with something that might have been curiosity. How? He asked quietly. How did you know all of this? Because I actually understand the technology, Zara replied. And because I've lived in the world your app claims to serve. I know what people actually need from productivity software because I've needed it myself. But you're just a cleaning lady who went to Northwestern and graduated summa cum laude with a computer science degree, Zara finished. The problem isn't that I'm not qualified, Mr. Whitfield. The problem is that you never bothered to find out who I actually was. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, then turned back to Dr. Rodriguez. What do you want? Money? A settlement? Name your price. I want you to learn something from this, Dr. Rodriguez said. Talent doesn't come with a pedigree, and dismissing people based on their current circumstances instead of their actual capabilities is not just morally wrong, it's bad business. Quote, so that's it? My company dies because I made one offhand comment to a janitor? Your company dies because you built it on lies and treated people as disposable, Zara said. I was just the person who happened to be in a position to prove it. Marcus stood up slowly, his shoulders sagging with defeat. You have no idea what you've destroyed. Hundreds of people are going to lose their jobs because of this. Hundreds of people are going to lose their jobs because their CEO prioritized ego over competence, Dr. Rodriguez corrected. But here's some free advice. There's still time to pivot. Admit your mistakes, rebuild your technology properly, and maybe you can salvage something. Marcus looked between them one last time, then walked toward the door. As he reached for the handle, he turned back. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Zara replied calmly. It is. 6 months after that confrontation in Dr. Rodriguez's conference room, Zara stood before a packed auditorium at the Chicago Convention Center, preparing to deliver the keynote address at Tech Summit 2025. The irony wasn't lost on her that Marcus Whitfield had been scheduled to give this same speech before his world came crashing down. Adaptive Intelligence, as Zara had named her platform, had officially launched 2 months earlier. The response had been unprecedented. Within the first week, they'd gained 500,000 users. By the end of the first month, that number had reached 2.5 million. Most remarkably, their user retention rate was 94%, almost unheard of in the productivity software space. The financial media had dubbed it the fastest enterprise software adoption in tech history. Forbes had featured Zara on their cover with the headline, From Janitor to CEO, the $500 million story Silicon Valley doesn't want you to know. But the achievement that meant the most to her was simpler. Her mother had been able to quit her cleaning job and focus on managing her health. As Zara adjusted the microphone and looked out at the audience of investors, entrepreneurs, and tech journalists, she spotted a familiar face in the third row. Marcus Whitfield sat slumped in his seat, looking older than his years. Technova Solutions had filed for bankruptcy 3 months earlier, and Marcus had been conspicuously absent from the tech conference circuit ever since. Good morning, Zara began, her voice carrying clearly through the auditorium. 3 years ago, I was working the night shift cleaning offices in downtown Chicago. I spent my evenings emptying trash cans and wiping down conference tables where million-dollar deals were made by people who had never written a single line of functional code. The audience chuckled, but Zara's tone remained serious. I'm not telling you this for sympathy or inspiration. I'm telling you because it illustrates the biggest problem in our industry. We've confused credentials with competence, and networking with innovation. We've built a system where the ability to secure funding is more valued than the ability to solve problems. She clicked to her first slide, showing side-by-side performance metrics. When Adaptive Intelligence launched, tech blogs compared it to Streamline AI, the previous market leader. What they found was that our platform processed data 300% faster, used 60% less computational resources, and had zero security vulnerabilities compared to Streamline AI's 47 documented exploits. The numbers drew murmurs from the audience. In the tech world, performance differences of that magnitude were almost impossible to achieve through incremental improvements. But here's what those comparisons missed. The real difference wasn't in the code architecture or the AI algorithms. The real difference was in understanding who we were building for and why. Zara advanced to the next slide, showing user testimonials from small business owners, freelancers, and remote workers. Streamline A. I was built for people who worked like Silicon Valley executives with dedicated IT support, unlimited bandwidth, and workflows that never changed. Adaptive Intelligence was built for people who work like most of the world actually works, with limited resources, changing priorities, and the need for technology that adapts to them instead of the other way around. In the audience, she noticed Dr. Rodriguez nodding approvingly. The investor had become more than a business partner. She'd become a mentor who had taught Zara to see beyond the immediate success to the larger implications of what they were building. The question I get asked most often is how a cleaning lady managed to outperform teams of experienced developers. And I think that question reveals the fundamental misunderstanding that nearly destroyed American innovation. Zara paused, letting the weight of that statement settle. I didn't succeed despite my background. I succeeded because of it. Every night I spent cleaning those offices, I was learning about the gap between what technology promised and what it actually delivered. I saw executives struggling with software that was supposed to make them more efficient. I watched them waste hours on systems that prioritized looking impressive over being useful. She clicked to a new slide showing market penetration data. Adaptive Intelligence now has 4.2 million active users across 47 countries. Our enterprise clients include 3 Fortune 500 companies, 12 federal agencies, and over 500 small businesses. But our fastest-growing segment is individual users, people who were ignored by traditional productivity software because they didn't fit the narrow definition of professional that Silicon Valley had created. The applause was spontaneous and sustained. When it died down, Zara continued with a more personal tone. There's someone in this audience today who represents everything wrong with how our industry evaluates talent and potential. 6 months ago, this person dismissed me as just a cleaner and assumed I probably didn't even know what a computer was. She didn't look directly at Marcus, but several audience members turned to follow her gaze. That person now serves as a case study in business schools about how unconscious bias and arrogance can destroy billion-dollar companies. But I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I'm here to challenge all of us to do better. Zara advanced to her final slide, which showed a simple graph trending upward. This isn't just about one company or one success story. This is about recognizing that innovation comes from unexpected places, often from people who understand problems intimately because they've lived them personally. The next breakthrough in artificial intelligence might come from a night security guard who understands pattern recognition better than anyone with a PhD. The next revolution in user interface design might come from a restaurant server who knows what efficient workflow actually looks like. The auditorium was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Silicon Valley has spent decades building technology for people like itself, young, wealthy, highly educated, and largely disconnected from the problems most of the world faces every day. But the future belongs to technology built by and for everyone else. She paused and looked directly at Marcus for the first time. To the person who called me just a cleaner, thank you. You motivated me to prove that competence doesn't require a corner office, that innovation doesn't require an Ivy League degree, and that sometimes the best way to disrupt an industry is to actually understand the problems it's supposed to solve. The standing ovation began before Zara finished her sentence and continued for nearly 2 minutes. As the applause died down, she noticed Marcus Whitfield standing as well, his expression unreadable. After the formal presentation ended, Zara was surrounded by reporters, investors, and entrepreneurs wanting to discuss partnerships, job opportunities, and licensing deals. It took nearly an hour to work through the crowd, but eventually she found herself face-to-face with Marcus in the convention center lobby. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "What you've built is genuinely impressive." Zara studied his face, looking for signs of sarcasm or hostility, but found only exhaustion and what might have been genuine respect. "Thank you," she replied. "I mean that." "I've been doing a lot of thinking since everything fell apart," Marcus continued. "You were right about more than just the technology. I built a company culture that valued the wrong things and ignored the right people." "What will you do now?" Marcus managed a rueful smile. "I'm thinking about going back to school. Maybe taking some actual computer science courses this time, instead of just hiring people who had them." "That's not a bad idea." "There's something else," Marcus said, reaching into his jacket pocket. "I wanted to give you this." He handed her a small envelope with her name written on it in careful handwriting. "It's a letter of recommendation," he explained. "I know you don't need it anymore, but I wanted to write down what I should have seen from the beginning. Maybe someday it'll help someone else avoid making my mistakes." Zara looked down at the envelope, then back at Marcus. "Thank you. That means more than you probably realize." As she watched him walk away through the crowded lobby, Zara reflected on how dramatically both their lives had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been invisible to people like Marcus Whitfield. Now she was proof that the invisible people were often the ones most worth seeing. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Watched your speech online. Your father would have been so proud." Quote, standing in that convention center lobby, surrounded by the buzz of 1,000 conversations about the future of technology, Zara realized that the most important code she'd ever written wasn't the algorithms that had made her rich. It was the example that proved anyone could rewrite their own story if they had the courage to believe in their own capabilities. The girl who'd once been dismissed as just a cleaner had cleaned the house in more ways than one. 1 year after the Tech Summit keynote, Zara found herself in a position she never could have imagined, sitting across from the Senate Technology Committee in Washington, D.C., testifying about algorithmic bias and equal opportunity in artificial intelligence development. The invitation had come after adaptive intelligence had been selected as the primary productivity platform for 3 major federal agencies, beating out proposals from tech giants like Microsoft and Google. Senator Patricia Chen of California leaned into her microphone. "Ms. Mitchell, your company's success story has been remarkable, but some critics argue that your approach to AI development lacks the rigorous testing and institutional oversight that comes from established tech companies. How do you respond to concerns about reliability and scalability?" Zara adjusted her position at the witness table, comfortable now with high-stakes questioning after months of congressional hearings, board meetings, and international conferences. "Senator Chen, I believe that criticism reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how innovation actually works. Established companies often mistake bureaucracy for rigor and institutional bias for expertise." She pulled up a presentation on the screen behind her. "Our platform currently serves 12.8 million users across 73 countries, with an uptime of 99.97% and customer satisfaction ratings that exceed industry standards by significant margins. This isn't accidental. It's the result of building technology that prioritizes user needs over investor presentations." Senator James Morrison from Texas, known for his skepticism of tech regulation, spoke next. "Ms. Mitchell, while your personal story is compelling, some of my constituents are concerned about the broader implications of your testimony. Are you suggesting that traditional hiring practices and credential requirements are inherently discriminatory?" Zara had anticipated this line of questioning. "Senator Morrison, I'm suggesting that our industry's obsession with pedigree over performance has created massive blind spots that hurt both innovation and economic opportunity. When we dismiss talented people because they don't fit a narrow profile of what a technologist looks like, we lose access to perspectives that could solve our most pressing problems." She clicked to the next slide, showing demographic data. Adaptive intelligence was built by a team that includes former retail workers, military veterans, community college graduates, and career changers over 40. This wasn't a social experiment, it was a business decision. People who understand real-world problems build better solutions to those problems. Senator Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Can you give us specific examples of how this approach has impacted your product development?" "Absolutely. Our user accessibility features are the most comprehensive in the industry because we hired a developer who became legally blind in her 30s and understood firsthand what barriers exist in traditional software. Our small business integration tools are seamless because we hired a former restaurant manager who spent years dealing with incompatible point-of-sale systems. Our security protocols are robust because we hired a former bank teller who understood how data breaches actually impact real people. The committee members exchanged glances. This wasn't the typical tech industry testimony they were accustomed to hearing. "But Ms. Mitchell," Senator Morrison pressed, "don't you think there's value in formal education and established industry experience? Surely a computer science degree from a prestigious university provides important foundational knowledge." Zara smiled slightly. "Senator, I have a computer science degree from Northwestern University, summa cum laude, but the most important things I learned about building useful technology came from watching my mother struggle with poorly designed systems while working multiple jobs to support our family. Education matters, but education comes in many forms." She advanced to another slide showing code complexity metrics. "The algorithms that power adaptive intelligence are mathematically more sophisticated than anything our competitors have produced. But sophistication without purpose is just showing off. What matters is whether the technology actually helps people accomplish their goals more effectively." Senator Chen leaned forward. "Your testimony mentions algorithmic bias. Can you explain how your development approach addresses this issue? Traditional AI development teams tend to be demographically homogeneous, which means their unconscious biases get encoded into the algorithms they create. Our diverse development team catches assumptions that homogeneous teams miss. For example, our facial recognition protocols work equally well across all skin tones because we had team members who understood why that mattered from personal experience." The hearing continued for another hour, covering topics from cybersecurity to international competitiveness to workforce development. Throughout, Zara maintained her calm, data-driven approach while weaving in the human stories that made the statistics meaningful. After the formal session ended, Senator Chen approached Zara privately. "Ms. Mitchell, I wanted to thank you for your testimony today. It's refreshing to hear from someone in your industry who understands that technology policy isn't just about technology, it's about people." "Thank you, Senator. I hope some of this resonates with your colleagues." "It already has." Senator Morrison asked me privately if you'd be willing to consult on a workforce development bill he's drafting. He was particularly interested in your points about recognizing non-traditional pathways into tech careers. As Zara left the Capitol building, she reflected on how surreal her life had become. 2 years earlier, she'd been invisible to the very industry she was now helping to reshape. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Rodriguez. "Watched the hearing online. Magnificent job. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" But before she could respond, another message appeared from an unknown number. "Ms. Mitchell, this is Marcus Whitfield. I watched your congressional testimony. I wanted you to know that I've been accepted into a master's program in computer science at University of Illinois. Starting fresh at 45 isn't easy, but you proved it's never too late to learn from your mistakes. Thank you for the inspiration." Zara stared at the message for a long moment. Marcus had indeed enrolled in school as he'd mentioned at the tech conference. She'd heard through industry contacts that he'd been quietly volunteering at coding boot camps for underrepresented communities, teaching basic business skills while learning programming fundamentals himself. She typed back, "Congratulations, Marcus. It takes courage to start over. If you ever need a study partner for algorithms class, I know someone who might be able to help." His response came quickly. "I might take you up on that. I'm discovering that my assumptions about who makes a good programmer were as wrong as my assumptions about who makes a good cleaner." That evening, over dinner at a quiet restaurant near Georgetown, Dr. Rodriguez raised her wine glass in a toast to proving that the best innovations come from the most unexpected places. "To second chances," Zara replied, thinking of Marcus and the long journey they'd all taken to reach this point. "Speaking of second chances," Dr. Rodriguez said, "I have some news. The Department of Education has asked us to develop an AI-powered platform for managing student loan applications and repayments. They specifically requested us because they want a system designed by people who understand what it's like to struggle with student debt." Zara laughed. "From cleaning offices to testifying before Congress to redesigning federal financial aid systems, my guidance counselor definitely didn't include this on the career path worksheet." The best careers are the ones that don't exist until you create them, Dr. Rodriguez said. And speaking of creating things, there's something else. Harvard Business School wants to offer you a visiting professorship. They want you to teach a course on inclusive innovation and non-traditional entrepreneurship. Harvard wants to hire the woman who never went to business school to teach other people about business. Harvard wants to hire the woman who built a billion-dollar company by recognizing talent that everyone else overlooked. There's a difference. As they walked back to their hotel, Zara thought about the young woman she'd been just 2 years earlier. Brilliant but invisible, capable but dismissed, ambitious but trapped by circumstances beyond her control. That woman would never have believed that her story would end up being studied in business schools and cited in congressional hearings. But more importantly, she thought about all the other brilliant, invisible people still cleaning offices, stocking shelves, driving trucks, and working jobs that required them to be smart, resourceful, and resilient every single day. People who had ideas that could change the world if anyone bothered to listen. Her phone buzzed with one more message, this time from her mother. "Saw you on C-SPAN today, baby. Mrs. Johnson from next door said you looked very professional. Also, that boy from down the street wants to know if you're hiring. He's been teaching himself to code on YouTube." Zara smiled and typed back, "Tell him to send me his GitHub portfolio. And Mom, we're always hiring people who are hungry to learn." The girl who had once been dismissed as just a cleaner was now in a position to make sure that no one else's potential would ever be dismissed so carelessly again. 5 years after that fateful night in the Technova conference room, Zara stood at the podium of the newly constructed Mitchell Center for Inclusive Innovation at Northwestern University. The building, funded by her foundation, was designed specifically to provide resources for first-generation college students pursuing careers in technology. Today marked its official opening, and the audience included faces that represented the full spectrum of her remarkable journey. Dr. Rodriguez sat in the front row, now serving as the university's first director of entrepreneurial equity. Next to her was Senator Chen, who had become a champion of inclusive tech policy after their congressional hearing. Even Marcus Whitfield was present, having completed his master's degree and now working as a program coordinator for coding boot camps in underserved communities. But the person Zara was most proud to see was her mother, Dorothy Mitchell, sitting in the place of honor wearing the same dress she'd worn to Zara's college graduation. At 62, Dorothy had started her own small business, a consulting service helping other working parents navigate technology systems that seemed designed to exclude them. 27 months ago, Zara began, her voice carrying clearly through the state-of-the-art auditorium. A young woman named Carmen Rodriguez sent me an email that changed how I think about success. She gestured to a shy-looking teenager in the third row, who waved nervously at the crowd. Carmen was working night shifts at a warehouse while taking computer programming classes at community college. She'd seen my Tech Summit speech online and wanted to know if someone like her, no connections, no money, just talent and determination, could ever break into the tech industry. Zara clicked to her first slide, showing impressive code samples and user interface designs. These are screenshots from an app Carmen built in her spare time, a system for warehouse workers to optimize their routes and reduce physical strain. It's more sophisticated than anything I saw from established companies when I was first breaking into the industry. Carmen didn't ask me for money or connections. She asked me for something more valuable, proof that her dreams weren't impossible. The audience murmured appreciatively as they recognized the elegance of Carmen's work. 6 months after that email, Carmen joined Adaptive Intelligence as our youngest senior developer. 3 months after that, her warehouse optimization system was being piloted by Amazon, Target, and Walmart. Today, Carmen's innovations are improving working conditions for over 500,000 warehouse employees across North America. Spontaneous applause erupted, with Carmen blushing as people turned to acknowledge her achievement. But Carmen's story isn't unique anymore. Over the past 5 years, Adaptive Intelligence has hired 847 employees. 63% didn't have traditional 4-year computer science degrees. 41% were working in service industries when we found them. 78% are the first in their families to work in technology. Zara advanced to the next slide, showing company performance metrics that drew gasps from the business-oriented audience members. Last quarter, Adaptive Intelligence generated $2.7 billion in revenue while maintaining the highest employee satisfaction ratings in the tech industry. We've been profitable for 4 consecutive years, expanded to 127 countries, and our platform now serves over 45 million users globally. These aren't social impact metrics. This is what happens when you build a company that actually understands the problems it's trying to solve. She paused to let the numbers sink in before continuing with a more personal tone. But success isn't just about revenue or user growth. Success is about proving that talent exists everywhere, even in places where no one thinks to look. Success is about creating pathways for people who were told their dreams were unrealistic. The next slide showed a photo of the old Technova building, now converted into affordable housing for working families. Marcus Whitfield and I have something to announce today. The building where this story began, where I was dismissed as just a cleaner, and where Marcus built a company on foundations that couldn't support its ambitions, has been purchased jointly by our organizations and converted into 200 units of affordable housing for working families. Marcus stood and waved, receiving warm applause from an audience that knew his story of redemption. The Marcus Whitfield Coding Academy, located on the ground floor, provides free programming education for anyone who wants to learn, regardless of their background or current employment situation. Because both Marcus and I learned that transformation is possible at any stage of life. Zara clicked to a final slide showing the architectural plans for the Mitchell Center. This building represents more than just another university facility. It's a commitment to recognizing potential wherever it exists. Every scholarship recipient, every research project, every startup incubated here will be evaluated on one criterion. Does this help solve real problems for real people? She looked directly at the students in the audience, young faces representing every background, ethnicity, and economic circumstance. To the students here today who feel like outsiders in the tech world, who worry that you don't fit the traditional mold of what a programmer or entrepreneur looks like, the industry doesn't need another version of what already exists. It needs you, with your unique perspective and your authentic understanding of problems that privileged people have never experienced. The applause was building, but Zara raised her hand for quiet. There's one more announcement. Adaptive Intelligence is launching the Hidden Talent Initiative, a global program to identify and support exceptional programmers, designers, and innovators who are currently working outside the tech industry. We're committing $500 million over the next decade to find the next generation of leaders in the most unexpected places. The standing ovation began before she finished the sentence, with the entire auditorium rising to acknowledge the magnitude of the commitment. As the formal ceremony concluded and people began mingling in the reception area, Zara found herself approached by a young man who looked familiar. Ms. Mitchell? I'm David Chen, Senator Chen's nephew. I'm a sophomore here, studying computer science. David, your aunt speaks about you constantly. How's school going? Quote, actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I've been working on a project, an app to help elderly people navigate Medicare enrollment. My grandmother struggled with it last year, and I realized how unnecessarily complicated the whole system is. Zara smiled, recognizing the familiar pattern of someone who'd identified a real problem through personal experience. Tell me more. Well, I built a prototype that simplifies the language, guides people through the decision process, and even connects them with local volunteers who can help in person. But I'm just a college student. I don't know how to turn it into something that could actually help people. David, Zara said, pulling out her business card, email me your prototype tomorrow. And include your grandmother's phone number. I'd like to hear her thoughts on the user experience. As she watched David's face light up with possibility, Zara realized at this moment, connecting with someone who had identified a genuine problem and wanted to solve it, was what success actually felt like. Later that evening, as the last guests departed and the lights dimmed in the Mitchell Center, Zara stood alone in the main hall, reading the inscription carved into the marble wall. Innovation begins when we see potential, where others see only problems. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. Thank you for believing in warehouse workers who code. Today I hired our first intern, a night security guard who taught herself Python during her shifts. The cycle continues. Zara smiled and typed back. The cycle continues, but it never ends. That's the point. Standing in that building dedicated to proving that talent knows no boundaries, Zara Mitchell, former night janitor, current tech CEO, and future legend, had accomplished something far more valuable than building a billion-dollar company. She had fundamentally changed how an entire industry thought about who deserved a chance to succeed. And in conference rooms and cleaning closets, in coding boot camps and corporate boardrooms, in places where people still worked night shifts while dreaming of something bigger, her story continued to echo. Sometimes the most powerful code you can write is the one that rewrites the rules entirely. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.